Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian, Pace reporting live here at Dizzy's Club Coca-Cola, here at Jazz and Lincoln Center here in New York City. Blessing the band stage all this week is vibraphonist Joe Locke, and this week he's playing selections off his brand new Motemas record release called Lay Down My Heart, Blues and Ballads Volume 1, and he's fusing two styles of one, contemporary music as well as straight ahead jazz music. I mean, he goes really hard into contemporary classics ranging from I Can't Make You Love Me by Bonnie Raitt and Ain't No Sunshine by Bill Withers to Bittersweet by Sam Jones and Making Whoopee. We sat down and we talked about the concept of this brand new CD. We also talked about his playing style and how he is carrying on the lineage of great vibraphonists in the jazz tradition, ranging from Terry Gibbs to Milt Jackson. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the sounds of Joe Locke live here, Dizzy's Club Coca-Cola, here in New York City. Joe, this album is a little different from the last record. And one of the things that I noticed about this project is that you mixed contemporary songs of this generation with some of the ballads and the standards from Tin Pan Alley also.
Yeah, it's funny, Brian. I felt like this project, putting the music together for this project was like dipping into a deep well, because there's so much music. It's a blues and ballads record, but there's such an umbrella there of music you can choose from, so much stuff. And after making the record, I'm happy it's volume 1, because after the fact, after we made the record, I thought, oh, we could have done this, or we could have done that. We could have done, we could have done a song by Ray Bryant, or a tune by Steve Winwood, or, something by Johnny Copeland, or something by, and the list goes on and on and on. So it's like dipping into a deep well, and one time you pull out, Dedicated to You, from the Great American Songbook, and the next time you dip in and pull out Ain't No Sunshine by Bill Withers, and we did Making Whoopee because it's not a blues, it's a Tin Pan Alley tune.
Right.
But if you listen to the lyrics of Making Whoopee, man, that's the blues, you know. So,
You know, it's interesting because I had this conversation with pianist Gerald Clayton a couple of weeks ago, and I wish more jazz artists, and you're doing this, and there's some other people that are doing it. There's nothing wrong with D'Angelo. There's nothing wrong with Bonnie Raitt. There's nothing wrong with Bill Withers, but the jazz heads really continue to go back to that American songbook. It needs to get more contemporary.
yeah, I think so too. I mean, Gerald is someone who knows something about the blues. He's one of my favorite young artists because he's someone who really knows about playing from the tradition and also about pushing it forward, you know, and he's someone that knows about the blues. My feeling about, you know, the Great American Songbook is it's always going to be valid. But I feel like, you know, I was listening the other day with Keiko. I was listening to Billy Joel's Stormfront album, and there's some music on there, the Downeaster Alexa and So It Goes, which is a masterpiece, I think.
And what about that's We Didn't Start the Fires on that
We
also.
Didn't Start the Fires on. They're talking about lyrically deep,
Yeah.
you know. And there's a song, as a matter of fact, I played this tune the other night as a solo vibraphone piece here at Dizzy's, and I'd like to do it on volume 2, but She's Always a Woman to Me by Billy Joel. I mean, it's got it lyrically, it's beautiful. It's on the level of some of the great songs of America, you know. But the chord changes, the harmony is as hip as any jazz tune or any Great American Songbooks, you know, piece. So anyway, there's a lot of music to dip into, you know.
I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, because we are on contemporary. I mean, you're just a few years older than me. But I grew up on Billy Joel, and I guess me coming up, I had the whole thing of Billy Joel, Elton John. I mean, exactly. And then there was a guy that came about in the '80s that kind of shook it up and kind of combined both of them, Bruce Hornsby.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's someone, and he's a knowledgeable jazz musician too. So he was doing some stuff with, what was his big hit?
The Way It Is.
That's a fantastic tune, The Way It Is, and also Don Henley wrote some beautiful songs too. You know, so there's a lot of stuff to dip into there. You know, I think Hornsby though, I think Quiet as Is Kept, he's a jazz musician. You know, I mean, he's got so much harmony, and yeah. Yeah.
What is it about jazz and jazz musicians that, because in the 60s, like Tonight you played, and it's on your album, Shadow of Your Smile. Now, Shadow of Your Smile has been interpreted by a million jazz artists, pop artists, soul artists. I don't even know country has even gone there yet. Right. But that song, again, is in the updated American Songbook. But a song like She's Always a Woman to Me can be interpreted by anybody. Nina Simone could have sung that, but you could bring a whole nother flavor to it.
Yeah, you know, I feel like, for example, with The Shadow of Your Smile, I feel like it's a song that we do in a different way. We take it out of the ballad realm and put some rhythmic underpinning on it to contemporize it. And but a song like She's Always a Woman or something like that, it could be done a million different ways. I could hear Willie Nelson singing that, you know, for example. But the songs on the new CD, you know, everything from Bonnie Raitt, you know, I Can't Make You Love Me. It's just a song I've always wanted to do. And then, you know, because it's a blues CD, you know, it's a blues and ballad CD, or we do Simone by Frank Foster, which is a very contemporary kind of modal post-bop thing with some really interesting changes. And that's really like a pure jazz thing. And we do Bittersweet by Sam Jones, which is blues with a bridge. So there are all these variations on the blues. And then Making Whoopee, as I said, it's not a blues at all, but the sentiment of the lyrics are the blues. So, and we do a beautiful ballad called The Meaning of the Blues. Now, that's a ballad, but it's about the blues. So it was such a fun record to make. And I wanted to make a record that wasn't about intellectual rigor, but it was about, you know, something you could put on that would make you feel either soothed or make you feel good or make you or put you in touch with your heart in a certain way, maybe after a hard week of work, you know. I used to see people come to, I still do, see people come to my gigs with their loved one, you know, and sit down and leave afterwards, maybe come up and say, thank you for that. It was a really tough week, and it was so nice to end it this way to recharge our battery, you know, for the next week. And I wanted to make a record that folks could take home and get that same thing from. And I really think we hit the mark, just by the comments that we're getting back from people, that we hit the mark. It's about feeling. It's, I say inside, it's people music. It's music that's not just for musicians, but it's for folks who are dealing with human problems and human existence on a daily basis, and just want to feel better. Feel it below the waist or feel it in their heart. And I have to say that the band on the record, Ryan Cohen, David Fink, and Jaimeo Brown, were perfect for this music, because they know when to bring the heat, and they know when to pull back and play romantic, and there was just a lot of virtuosity in their restraint, if you can dig that, and I think it's really in evidence on the record, and it made me play with more restraint and more purpose, and I have to also say that Catherine Miller engineered the hell out of the CD. She did a fantastic job. She's a great engineer, and we had Alan Silverman doing the mastering, and just the sound of the record, it has such a beautiful sound. I have an instrument on there, on the CD. The bars are Musser bars from 1959, and the frame was made by a friend of mine out of one piece of wood, of oak, that he made as a labor of love for me. So it's a one-of-a-kind instrument that's never been recorded before, and it was used on this on the Lay Down My Heart CD. So this just a whole bunch of stuff that makes it a meaningful, exciting record for me, man.
Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. It's not warm when she's away. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. She's always gone too long. Anytime she goes away, I wonder this time where she's gone. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone, and this house just ain't no home. Anytime she goes away. I know.
I want to nail something too that was just fantastic listening to this record, and this album really takes me back to one of my favorite Oscar Peterson and Milt Jackson pairings.
Oh, man, you got to say that with Green Dolphin Street.
Yes, sir.
Oh my God. With Heartstrings and Green Dolphin Street.
Oh, yes.
Is that called Tallest Trees?
There you go.
With Ray Brown and Ed Thigpen.
Yeah.
Man, I know I liked you, man. You know the thing about that record, man, is that Oscar plays with such restraint on that record. Man, you know how much chops Oscar's got,
Yeah.
man. But he played with such restraint, man. The solo he plays on Green Dolphin Street,
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
it almost hurts. He's holding back so much.
Yeah.
Man, I just love the fact that you know that record, man.
I mean, it's inside and out. I mean, that record really was Milt Jackson's album.
Man, it's beautiful, and the way all of them played, to bring it together to create a whole greater than the sum of its parts, but without trying. without a lot of effort. It's not about effort. It's about coming together to to breathe together and create something beautiful. And man, what a great example, man! Wow, beautiful.
It really does. I mean, and I'm not hearing too many jazz artists, especially on vibes. Warren Wolf.
I love Warren.
I do too. I love him. Yeah, he brings another swag to it. And Stefan, I mean, he's in his own world.
Cats, man.
What is it about the vibes in jazz right now? Not too many people are taking up the instrument and knowing the discipline of the instrument.
What's happening with the vibes now is really interesting because when I moved to New York, the only cats who were playing, actually coming from a pure jazz tradition were, Steve Nelson and myself. There was a long time, there was a dearth of vibraphone players, who were really jazz players, jazz musicians. But man, that's really changing. I'm so happy to see that, Stefan now, he's like an old man now. Sorry, Stefan, he's a youngster. I'm teasing, but he's been around now for quite a while, and now we're starting to see young vibes players who can really play. Warren's a perfect example, man. He plays music, like soulful music on the instrument, And I think that it used to be that there were lots of great instrumentalists, but the level of the vibraphone was down here under the other instruments. And that's really, really changed. Like I'm hearing some vibe players who are right up there with the great, piano players and saxophone players and really holding their own. So the instrument's really, it's making some inroads, especially, I'd say, especially in the last decade or even less,
What about the elder statesmen that are still around, Bobby Hutcherson and Terry Gibbs? These guys Terry brought a whole nother language to the vibes, but Bobby kind of was like the younger brother to Milt Jackson, and these two guys had a very important impact on you musically.
It's really interesting, man. To me, Terry Gibbs was the bridge between swing and bebop. He bridged that, between swing and bebop, and Milt Jackson to me was the cat who successfully took the language of actually Bird and Dizzy and Bud Powell and successfully translated it to the vibes. Bobby Hutcherson is the cat who took the language, of the post-Coltrane generation, and translated it to the instrument successfully. And really moved the instrument forward, And Gary Burton, man, he's another cat who amazes me because he's just such a standalone of just an amazing musician who he actually messed a lot of cats up because his technique is so phenomenal that he developed as a very young, as a boy actually, that people were like chasing after the technique. And to him, it came, pretty naturally. I'm sure he put a lot of work in, but such a phenomenal musician, and he just continues to get better and better and better. He's at the top of his game. For me, Bobby Hutcherson is spiritually, his playing really resonates with me, and I just love every note he plays. But there are some masters of the instrument, Terry Gibbs, and to me, like Milt Jackson, Bobby Hutcherson, Gary Burton, all these players who are all fantastic, and they all sound completely different from one another. Isn't that amazing? It's so it's an interesting instrument, man.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report. Reporting live here at Dizzy's Club Coca-Cola, here at Jazz and Lincoln Center here in New York City. I'd like to personally thank the talented Joe Locke for his time, as well as the staff and management here at Dizzy's Club Coca-Cola, here at Jazz and Lincoln Center. As always, please visit my website, www.thepacereport.com, for my weekly column, as well as my past segments. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Till next time, peace.